There is a building in Basel, Switzerland. It is 20 stories tall, cylindrical, glass and steel. Inside that building sits a bank, not a commercial bank, not a bank you can walk into or open an account at. A bank that, according to its founding treaty, cannot be searched by any government on earth, cannot be taxed by any government on earth, cannot have its assets seized, cannot be raided, cannot be audited against its will by any national authority. A bank that has operated with complete legal immunity from every law of every country since 1930. It is called the Bank for International Settlements, and if you have never heard of it, that is not an accident. The Bank for International Settlements was created in 1930 for a specific purpose. Germany owed enormous war reparations after World War I. Moving that money across borders through different currencies, different banking systems, different governments was complicated. The BIS was designed to be the coordinator, a neutral institution above national politics that could handle the financial mechanics of the transfer, a middleman for the money of nations. Within a decade, the purpose had quietly expanded. By the late 1930s, the BIS had become something larger than its original mandate described. It was the place where the central banks of the world, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Reichsbank, maintained accounts and coordinated quietly, above the noise of politics, above the reach of any single government. Then the Second World War began, and what happened next is documented in congressional hearings, in declassified records, and in a 1997 independent historical commission that spent years examining the BIS's wartime conduct. In March 1939, before the war officially began, Nazi Germany invaded Czechoslovakia. Among the assets Germany seized was the Czech National Bank's gold reserves. A significant portion of that gold had been deposited for safekeeping at the Bank for International Settlements. According to the documented historical record, the BIS transferred that gold to the German Reichsbank following the invasion. Czech gold handed to the government that had just forcibly occupied Czechoslovakia by a bank that described itself as neutral. The British government was informed of the transfer at the time. A member of Parliament raised it in the House of Commons. The transfer had already been completed. The BIS continued operating throughout World War II. On its board during the war years sat representatives of countries that were actively fighting each other: American and British banking officials, German Reichsbank officials. Same board, same meetings throughout the war. In 1943, a Norwegian economist named Wilhelm Keilhau published a report arguing the BIS was facilitating Nazi Germany's ability to conduct international financial transactions and that it should be shut down immediately. In 1944, at the Bretton Woods Conference, the same conference that redesigned the global financial system after the war, a resolution was passed calling for the dissolution of the BIS at the earliest possible moment. The BIS was not dissolved. The resolution was never acted upon. By 1948, the BIS was fully operational again, now playing a central role in the reconstruction of post-war Europe. The institution that many wartime voices had called for abolishing became, in the decades that followed, more powerful than it had ever been.
Here is what the BIS actually does today. Every 2 months, the governors of the world's major central banks travel to Basel. The Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the People's Bank of China. They meet, they talk. The discussions are not published. The BIS also sets what are called the Basel Accords, the international standards that govern how much capital banks around the world are required to hold, how much risk they're allowed to carry, what counts as a safe investment and what does not. These standards apply to every major bank in every major economy. They are set in Basel by an institution that answers to no electorate, that was not created by any democratic process, and that operates to this day under the same diplomatic immunity written into its founding treaty in 1930.
The Bank for International Settlements sits at the top of a system this series has spent 18 episodes documenting. The Federal Reserve sits below it. The central banks of Europe, Asia, and the Americas sit below it. The commercial banks that hold your savings, manage your mortgage, and finance the companies that employ you sit below all of that. And at the top, in a glass tower in Switzerland, sits an institution that was designed in 1930 to be unreachable, that survived a world war, that survived a formal resolution to dissolve it, and that today sets the rules for how money moves across the entire global economy, without a vote, without an election, without a single moment where ordinary people, the people whose savings and retirements and daily lives are shaped by those rules, were ever asked what they thought. The BIS describes itself on its own website as serving central banks in their pursuit of monetary and financial stability. That description is accurate. What it does not include is the other part, that it serves those central banks from a position that no central bank and no government behind any central bank can override. That is not conspiracy. That is the founding treaty. Available if you look for it at bis.org.
18 episodes. We began on a private island in 1910. We end tonight in a glass tower in Switzerland, an institution that connects every thread this series has followed. The Federal Reserve sends its governor to Basel every 2 months. The petrodollar system operates within rules the BIS helped shape. The same banking network that gathered at Jekyll Island eventually fed into the institution that sits above all of them. The architecture is complete. And in our next episode, we examine the one moment in history when a single document, a single decision, and a single afternoon changed everything your generation knew about money. The story you already know the ending of, but probably not the beginning. That story, next episode.